About a month ago, I did a video on a project called Bitcoin ETF. The symbol was BTCETF, and it is piggybacking off of the idea that a Bitcoin ETF is inevitable, it's going to pass, and it's a token that follows the different events for a Bitcoin ETF passing. And I was extremely bullish on it long term because I said, look, it's next to guaranteed that we're going to see a Bitcoin spot ETF approved in the next few months. If not before the end of the year, definitely in 2024. And as a result of this, I invested in this token during pre-sale. So when we spoke about it last, they had raised just around $47,000. If you look at it now, they have done some big things since then, one of which is that they have now raised over $4 million with a total goal of raising $5 million for their pre-sale. This is something that's pretty exciting to me because I found this project really early on, and notifying you about a project that has now raised more than 100 times what they had when I first talked about it gets me pretty excited. So when we saw this project, when we first talked about it, I went over some of the specific details of it. I bought some tokens, and I also went through how to actually stake these tokens. Since that time, you can see that now with the tokens I have staked, I already have generated some significant rewards. I staked at the time 3,715 BTC ETF tokens, and I had generated some pretty significant rewards. Now, the rewards are totaling around 942 BTC ETF tokens. If we want, we can go ahead and claim these rewards when it is live. So you got to remember that it is not live just yet to claim these rewards, but you can still go ahead, buy more tokens, and stake them. So again, when we did that video previously, the price per one BTC ETF token was $0.005. And right now it has gone up to $0.0068. So like it's in all pre-sales, it's more beneficial to get involved early on. But the thing that stands out about Bitcoin ETF token is not only can you go ahead and still buy it if you're interested. I went through the whole entire buying process in the last video. You can get it with ETH, USDT, with card. You can do it basically any way that you want. You also can switch the wallet to BNB or Matic and do it that way. But with Bitcoin ETF token, essentially it's a cryptocurrency that's tied to the fate of Bitcoin, and the expected ETF approvals coming from the SEC. Their news feed will update you and keep you most up to date on what is going on with Bitcoin ETF news. And they talk about it on their social media as well. You can see just on their latest Bitcoin ETF news feed right here, they talk about everything from when the SEC officially was meeting with spot Bitcoin ETF filers. That was just an hour ago. Then when Bloomberg said that they expect an approval in January. Then you also see other posts where they talk about how they have raised over $4 million. They've talked about all these major updates that are going on with Bitcoin ETFs, whether it's with their token, whether it's with the SEC, whether it's with BlackRock. You can easily follow and stay up to date to everything going on with a Bitcoin ETF approval just by following their news feed. You can see everything, and that's something that is pretty cool. In addition to this, things and aspects of the token, how its tokenomics worth, how the price can potentially increase long-term, is when you're looking at the roadmap, there's a few things that stand out. First of which is they have about 4 or 5 main phases, and this is on their roadmap. You can see pre-sale phase is where we are right now. This is where they are gathering the BTC ETF community and raising awareness about their aim to fill everybody's bags before the first Bitcoin ETF approval. Then they talk about pre-launch. During this, this is going to be where they are initiating marketing that highlights why people need to hold BTC ETF tokens, as well as BTC before the SEC approves the first Bitcoin ETF. Third phase is BTC ETF launch and a 5% burn tax. So after launching on a DEX, a burning mechanism is going to start to reduce the token supply with every single transaction. And this transaction fee starts at 5%. It's going to decrease by 1% after each of these major milestones are hit, and we'll go over that in a minute. And then the last phase is really a 25% token burn. So a total of 25% of the BTC ETF token supply is set to be removed from circulation as Bitcoin matures in the global market, and 5% of the total supply is burned for every BTC ETF milestone that is passed. And these are the main milestones. So you can see, first milestone is when there's $100 million volume, and that's going to be in terms of trading volume. So when the total BTC ETF trading volume hits $100 million, 5% of total supply is burnt, and the transaction tax is reduced from 5% to 4%. Then when an ETF is approved, the first Bitcoin spot ETF is approved, then another 5% of the total supply is going to be burned, and a transaction tax, which is going to be reduced from 4% to 3%. So you can see each of these major milestones reduces the total supply, hence making your tokens more valuable. Every time a massive portion, like a 5% portion of the supply is burned, it makes your tokens more valuable. Third milestone is the ETF launch. With this, the first Bitcoin ETF launches in the US, and another 5% of the total supply is burned, and the transaction tax is reduced from 3% to 2%. So again, every single time a milestone's hit, 5% of the total supply is burned, and that removes that from people being able to buy those tokens. Essentially, supply and demand, there's less supply, and even if the demand stays the same, it just increases the price of the token. After that, it's going to be with the fourth one, which is the ETF assets under management is going to be $1 billion. When a Bitcoin ETF assets under management hits $1 billion in value, another 5% is going to be burned, and the transaction tax is reduced from 2% to 1%. And finally, when Bitcoin hits $100,000 per token, then another 5% of the total supply is burned, and the transaction tax is reduced from 1 down to 0%. So ultimately, each and every single one of these milestones is something that is inevitable in the crypto space, and something that many people, many analysts, many institutions all expect is going to happen in the next year or so for Bitcoin. We've seen that Van Eck has come out and says that they believe that Bitcoin is going to reach $160,000 per coin. Many other financial institutions have said very similar things. And so as a result of this, getting involved into BTC ETF's pre-sale now is something that is potentially very valuable, because as all these milestones happen, as long as you're a token holder of BTC ETF, it's going to reduce the supply and burn all these tokens every single time a milestone is hit, helping you to increase, the value of your tokens. Last thing I do want to go over is just with the tokenomics. So with the tokenomics, you can see there's a total of 2.1 billion tokens. 40% of that is going to be allocated to pre-sale, 25% to staking, 25% for burning, 10% to liquidity, and you could see that there's going to be an initial market cap of right around $12 million. So there's a lot of opportunities with this token, and it's one of the many reasons why I got into it so early and why I doubled down on it recently. So as you guys saw in our last video, I'll link that down below. I went through the entire buying process of how to buy and how to stake. If you want to go ahead and do it, you could still go ahead and buy, but the pre-sale is almost up. So I would recommend, if you're interested in this, you think a Bitcoin ETF is going to be approved, you probably should do it now, because there's not going to be another chance to get in at these prices. And those of you who commented on the last video were curious, this project is fully audited. You can see that they did have an audit done by CoinSalt back in October, well before we even talked about it, and really everything checked off here. There was no major issues in terms of their smart contract. So this is a project I'm extremely bullish on. I believe a Bitcoin ETF is going to be approved in the next few months. I think it's inevitable, and when that does happen, it's just going to be a spiral of events. Not only is Bitcoin's price going to increase in value, not only are we going to see, a lot of volume from institutional players, but for Bitcoin ETF token, it's going to help reduce the total supply, and that's something that's going to be valuable if you're a BTC ETF token holder.